Hello and welcome to another episode of Drive With Me, the show wherein I mostly discuss and complain about politics, economics, current events, cultural issues, and sometimes throw in some positive stuff that involves like personal improvement or therapy related ideals because I am a therapist by trade. And so it's kind of a mixture of things, honestly, on this channel. But I talk about what mostly is on my mind and what I've kind of gleaned and what I think about things that I've seen just going on in the world around me. And occasionally, I even talk about things involving technology, and that's actually what I wanted to touch on today. So, a little while ago, I want to say roughly a week ago, I recorded a video kind of just detailing what is going on with Sony stopping production of physical discs for its games as of January of 2028. And since then, I have noticed, at least on my YouTube feed, that there have just been tons of people commenting on it. And more backlash, honestly, than I expected. I kind of figured that it was a done deal, in, like, culturally, right? Like among gamers, that it was just like, oh yeah, this will happen eventually, right? Even though I am a more of an old school gamer and I like collecting discs because I've been collecting video game hardware and games since I was, I mean, at least a teenager, if not younger. And I'm in my 30s now, so it's been a long time. So for me, it's habit, right? I like it. I enjoy it. And I've actually been frustrated by many of the trends going on in the industry anyway. It was actually, honestly, it's been a little refreshing to see just how upset and how much backlash that Sony's been getting for this. And my understanding, or what I've been hearing, is that Sony has been transitioning their like factories, their warehouses and stuff that deal with their disc production, already moving them towards other products like camera sensors or things like that, right? So it may be an instance of too little too late, and Sony's really locked in and committed to this, whether we all like it or not. But it did give me some things to think about, right? So one, I don't like that physical discs are going away, but I think it's a bigger issue than that, right? And there are reasons why there's a bigger issue, because fundamentally, the information that is put onto a disc is the same information for the same video game, that you would be downloading onto a solid state drive that you could then rewrite and so on. So it's different from like when, I think it was Domino's or KFC or what have you, or Pizza Hut, maybe they were making jokes about like, oh, we're going to be selling virtual chicken and virtual pizza, and we're no longer going to be selling a physical product. Like that is different, because whether the device that you're using is reading the information off of a disk or it's reading it off of a drive, it fundamentally is the same digital information that creates that video game, or that reads and renders that video game, right? And its systems. Ultimately, it's the hardware that matters more than the medium by which that information is delivered. And so it's not quite apples to apples there, but I do agree that there are issues primarily revolving around ownership, but it goes beyond physical media, right? And that's my main issue with it. Man, there's a lot of bumps around here, man, every day. And my mic seems to pick it up every time, like, it's kind of funny. But anyway, to me, so it's bigger than that. Like I noted, I've been a Diablo fan for a long time, and so is my wife. So I've been playing since the Diablo 2 days and the original StarCraft, and I kind of retroactively got into Warcraft 2, but mostly was playing Warcraft 3. So I've been like a Blizzard fan since the early 2000s, right? I think it was right around 2000, 2001 that I first started playing StarCraft, was the first one that I was introduced to, the original one. And so I've been a Diablo fan for a while. When Diablo 3 came out, I actually generally enjoyed it. I was one that kind of liked the fact that it was more social, that it was a bit easier to connect to people online and jump in and jump out of like play sessions with people. And it was easier. Diablo 2 definitely had more challenge, and there were elements of that I liked. So it's cool that they have Diablo 2 Resurrected, the like remastered version. But I actually was one that, other than I didn't like the story, I thought the story was really weak in Diablo 3 and the campaign was short. Other than that, I actually really enjoyed a lot of Diablo 3. And when Diablo 4 came out, one of the notable things that I think irritated me so much was that even though there was a single player campaign, it was online only. And I think that actually really upset me, where I'm like, because it happened where we had an internet outage, and my wife and I were trying to co-op play on, funnily enough, the PlayStation 5 for Diablo 4, and we couldn't get onto the servers. And I'm like, what the heck, dude? On Diablo 2 or Diablo 3, it wouldn't have mattered. We could have still just gotten on, because you can co-op from the same, the two people, at least in Diablo 4, on the same console, right? And so I was like, it shouldn't matter. It's a single, but we're not trying to play with other people via an internet connection. It doesn't matter to us and our experience really at all. So we should be able to do this, but it doesn't matter because it's an always online only experience. And that, I think, speaks to where more of my frustration is coming from. That whether it's on a disc or whether or not it's on saved on your solid state drive, actually matters less than whether or not these games will be playable in perpetuity, like 20 years from now, right? For example, like I can go and take out, I don't have it set up currently, but like if I were to set up my Nintendo 64 that I have refurbished and have kept, I could pop in my, as long as everything works, I could pop in my copy of Ocarina of Time and play it right now if I wanted to, right? And had everything set up. So I don't think that that's going to be the case 30 years from now with Diablo 4 unless something changes. Like they add a final patch that like, oh, okay, no, it's no longer online only. And it's one thing when that's like a massively multiplayer game like World of Warcraft, where it's designed around that concept. But Diablo is not and has not been. And many other games that are related to that are not. The online modes were additional functionality. There were things that could be add features to the game and add connectivity and a social nature or features to the game, but it wasn't the main draw. And a lot of games, like the shooters that I grew up with, like Halo and Gears of War as an example, or GoldenEye, even going back that far, the early like Quake and Doom games, they were primarily single player games with a multiplayer component if it shipped with one at all. And nowadays, a lot of the market shifted. But what's frustrating is that, like, if Fortnite, for example, if the the internet goes down, my understanding is you can't play Fortnite. And there's a lot of games, especially free to play games, that have gone that direction. But increasingly, even games that you pay full price for are going that way. You can only play them online. And they're franchises and types of games that really have no reason, there's no justifiable reason for it. So that, I think, is extremely frustrating. But you combine that with the nature of, as things move digitally, increasingly, we're increasingly relying on these big companies that are motivated, mind you, financially, to get us to buy more. We're relying on them to maintain servers to be able to re-download these. And we're relying on drives that have limited space, so we're only putting so many games on them. We're not really keeping them on a solid state. It's not like you fill up a solid state drive with games that you have recently purchased, and then you pop in a new one, like a disc might, like how that might function, or like a thumb drive, right? And so we're constantly like deleting and then re-downloading various games. At some point, that's not going to be an option. And I'm sure there's at least a handful of people out there that are out, like they're downloading every single thing to an external drive that they purchase, and they have every intention of like, eventually this is going to be used for emulation, and I'm going to have this because I bought it legitimately for the rest of my life. And that's awesome, but that's not the majority of us. And then you add in the always online component, so that even if you technically have the game and have the client downloaded, doesn't mean you can access it, because it's specifically designed to not allow you to if it doesn't have a connection that verifies it through the servers. Plus, digital games are only tied to your account, so you can't share with other people, and you can't trade them in. And additionally, they require the like verification. So if your like CMOS battery goes out on your PlayStation, or they shut down the servers for verification, even a single player game that doesn't have an always online component, when downloaded digitally, may not allow you to play, because as far as it's concerned, it's not getting the go ahead to allow you to open it because it can't verify it, right? So there's multiple components there that are bigger than just discs are going away. Like that's actually a symptom of the larger problem that largely involves we are slowly losing control over the media that we are buying, and buying for higher prices than ever before, but having less ownership of than ever before. That's, I think, that where the real rub is. And getting rid of discs, it kind of feels to a lot of us, myself included, like a bit of a final straw. Like, okay, well, I mean, if it's always online, but I'm willing to still buy this game and it brings some positive, like, sure, I'll still buy Diablo 4. Wasn't necessarily my favorite game or favorite, one in the series, but, I still went ahead and bought it. But I got it on disc. So if for whatever reason they eventually have like a patch that allows it to be played offline, or if just the servers run for the next number of decades, I should still be able to play it years from now, I'm hoping, and without a verification. But I don't know for sure. It seems like the digital rights management, the DRM technology that is being used, is decreasingly in our favor all over the place in almost every aspect of this industry. And it reflects a broader trend in American society that increasingly ownership really is going away. And over time, digital products or things related to just tech in general, even like Uber and Lyft, right? They're getting worse. And they do this on purpose, right? There really is like a 3-step process. It is you introduce a valuable service or product that is with the intention, or that you hope is able to disrupt a given industry, or at least gain some market share within it. You innovate, you streamline, you optimize for a while, and then as you kind of hit your relative market saturation rate, you engage in what is often called in-shitification, especially once you're a publicly traded company and you IPO and you sell to a larger company or become a large company or what have you. Then what they tend to do is purposely make things worse, like Google making searches worse on purpose so that you spend more time on average searching and looking at their ads, or Facebook being just 2 steps away from useless with AI slop. And the original use back in the 20s when I first made a Facebook profile, that was really to connect with family and friends and stay in touch with people as you got older. It was like a way that I stayed in touch with elementary school and middle school friends when I was in high school, and then high school friends when I was in college, and so on and so forth, right? It was a cool way to stay in touch, even if you weren't living in the same state or the same country or the same city anymore, right? It was nice. It was actually a pretty cool concept at the beginning. And over time, it has changed dramatically. And it really is about advertising and keeping eyeballs glued to it as much as possible, whether or not it's actually a good experience and whether or not it actually serves much of a real purpose. And so I, for one, my wife and I have deleted all of our social media profiles with very few exceptions. Like YouTube we still have, right? But that's more of like a video sharing service. It barely, I would say, barely counts as a social media network anyway. It's more video format heavy. And while it does technically have shorts, so it has like an Instagram, TikTok-like element to it, that's only a portion of it. And you really only communicate through comments. So anyway, I put YouTube in a different category. However, like my wife sells like a Pinterest. She still likes that for inspiration for arts and crafts and that kind of stuff. Aside from that, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, all of that stuff's gone. I don't use any of it. And I wouldn't say that it's like made my life significantly better and I'm just a much more enlightened person now or any kind of nonsense like that. But I will say that I doom scroll a lot less. I will say that it has freed up time that I didn't even realize I was like spending to that degree on other things. And in fact, I've picked up the hobby of gardening recently within the last several months, and I'm actually really enjoying that. And that at least roughly coincides with when I've really gone out of my way to disconnect from a lot of social media like platforms, and it's been nice. So there are multiple elements and layers to this. It's not just video games. It's not just physical media, right? It is the general underlying structural issues within our economy that are increasingly moving us towards a less ownership, more renting, and then once you corner the market, raising prices and drop the quality so that we can extract profit as much as possible. And Sony is actively doing this. Every company does this to a degree, or has the primary motivation of making money, right? However, the degree that we're seeing it to, and on the scale that we're seeing it at, is at a level that I've at least never witnessed in my lifetime, and I don't think has ever occurred in human history, because we've never had such a large technology industry before. So I'm pretty sure this is unprecedented for all of us. And so while, yes, I generally feel like I would love to see Sony back off of this, and I'm enjoying seeing the backlash, in all honesty, but I think it should go deeper than that and should be more than that. That our like the Stop Killing Games movement 100% should be like a mass movement where that becomes the baseline. That the bare minimum is that if you sell a game digitally, in perpetuity, the game is available for like a minimum of like 50 years, right? And if you have an online platform, even if the game is online only, one should, as far as I'm concerned, it should be far more limited as to what they do. But you cannot just shut down the service when people have paid for the client, right? Like the program, the game. And that you must offer, before the game server shut down, at least an option to play at least a single player mode offline. I believe those kind of things should be the bare minimum as an industry standard, and there's probably a variety of ways that you can go about it, like enforcing that. I'd like to see the industry do it itself, like internally, like the ESRB or something like that, create like another arm that's like, hey, this is like consumer protection, portion of this industry. And if not, then the government, I think, should get involved and pass some at least bare minimum protections that then set a new tone for what these companies are expected to do and what they can get away with. Because right now, they really do seem to feel like we're creating this product and we sell it to you, but we can pull it back at almost any time. Like how Sony apparently deleted like 551 movies from its online platform that people bought, right? Because of licensing issues. If you had had that on DVD or Blu-ray or what have you, that would not have been an issue. You would just still have the disc, right? And there are always ways that, like, Nintendo is notorious for really being concerned about piracy and making, frankly, kind of dumb decisions, whether it's sticking with cartridges on the Nintendo 64 or using mini discs on the GameCube or what have you, in lieu of not wanting to make piracy easier and wanting to protect against it. And then what's funny is that Nintendo is among the most pirated company in gaming anyway, right, for emulation purposes. And they often make it easier by making these dumb decisions, funnily enough. However, that is exactly where a lot of this is driving us. And like for myself, I don't want to make an angry reaction video about PlayStation and this whole disc situation, but in all honesty, as of right now, whether it be a combination or due to a combination of notably increased hardware prices and the likelihood that the PlayStation 6 is going to be an all-digital console, I don't think I'm going to pick one up, at least not for a good long while. I'm going to stick with my PlayStation 5 and continue collecting physical discs as long as I can. And when I no longer can, I am almost definitely switching over to being more or less exclusively a PC gamer and going like full Steam and GOG and so on, right? Because PlayStation will then have taken away one of the few things that was leaving me locked into that platform. The only thing that really does it beyond that is their exclusive games, which has admittedly been the biggest draw from the for a long time, at least since the PS3 era for me. So maybe eventually, like 8 years from now or more, 10 years from now, maybe I pick up a heavily discounted PS6 and just download first-party games that I can't get anywhere else. But I can pretty much guarantee you that if things continue going the way that they are, I am not going to be involved in this console generation anywhere close to the way I have been in the past. And it's a little sad, but also kind of also where the industry and where I, as a gamer and a person, have been moving. I've increasingly found myself drawn towards PC gaming anyway, wherein even though things are digital, there's more competition, there's better sales and deals, and you can own games straight up, right? Like Steam, like there's still some issues there. It's not like it's perfect, but there are more options for to maintain ownership and to make sure that there is motivation to treat gamers well in a way that you don't have on a console. Because it's a closed garden, and so the only digital storefront that will be available will be Sony's on the PlayStation or Microsoft's on the Xbox, unless they go this hybrid console route, in which case Microsoft may effectively be making a hybrid PC in a console form. And then there's Nintendo that's continuing to do its Nintendo thing, and maybe that's where I switch to, and like pun not really intended, but switch over to primarily buying a lot of third-party games that are in a physical format, even a game key card. At least it gives you control over whether like you can resell it and trade it and that kind of thing, um, on the Switch 2 in a physical format. So I mean, maybe that's an option. It's not the most powerful device out there, and I probably would lean more towards PC generally anyway, but nonetheless, there's an option there. So it's interesting the way that the world is developing, the way that the United States is going, and how it's impacting all of us. A lot of what was sold as this bright, beautiful future where everything is simpler and easier and whatnot has really turned into kind of a cluster, honestly, and has really not worked in the best interest of consumers. And I don't think that trend is going to change anytime soon. So the first step really is and has been make yourself aware of it, start seeing through the nonsense. You can be a Sony fan or a Microsoft, like an Xbox fan or a Nintendo. It doesn't really matter, right? Like what you're a fan of or what you want to protect. Just be aware of yourself as a consumer and as a person, and start thinking from the mindset of how do we protect this industry or this economy, this nation that we love. And the answer pretty much always comes back to we do it together, right? And we do it by not giving government or private industry undue amounts of authority and power over us, which means we keep competition. We need to re-inject competition into the United States as a whole. And I think we could probably use that in gaming. I think it's actually gotten too small in terms of the pool of big players. And it's creating some issues for us, and I'm not a fan. And it's increasingly leaving PC gaming as the most obvious, viable alternative and one of the best places to go to. And that may be what Sony does, whether it intends to or not, is it may end up putting the final nails in its own coffin of just why do it, given that consoles are increasingly moving towards being PCs anyway, just slightly closed garden, and it looks like Microsoft is going the way of creating a hybrid anyway, and Nintendo's going the way of creating a handheld hybrid anyway, or one that can be docked, sure, but functionally it's a handheld. Sony is quickly may become the last one standing in the like traditional console space. And if you're also taking away physical discs, Sony, why would we stay? Like, exclusives are not going to be enough for a $1,000 console for many of us, right? Not enough to justify it, myself included. And I am a near lifelong PlayStation fan, right? The original PlayStation came out here in the US when I was 6 years old. I've virtually grown up with the platform and with the brand, and it is both painful and it feels somewhat inevitable. This is where things have been going. So I'm not really so much angry as much as sad, and just realizing, dude, I guess it's time to just fully commit and switch over to gaming on PC, where at least there's competition and you can load different operating systems if you want to. I can put on Linux and SteamOS if I want. I can go the route of buying physical games that I download and have like the permanent certificates to, and it's not even tied to a specific platform like Steam, right? Like you have more options, and because of that, like competition almost always breeds better results for the consumer. And so I hope that that's where we end up moving back to. But in the meantime, if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate it. Please feel free to like if you enjoyed it. Otherwise, if you want to hear more about politics, culture, economics, self-help, or working through stuff and ways to do so, etc., right? Just current events. Feel free to stick around because we'll be talking about it. Thank you, and y'all take care.